Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to TVP World. I'm Michiel Van-Blommestein. The relationship between Poland and the Netherlands has been nothing less than cordial over the last 30 years. And especially over the last few years, the two have been working very intensively on defending the eastern border, NATO's eastern flank. However, even the best of friends sometimes have a difference of opinion. And that's why I'm here with the Dutch Foreign Minister, Mr. David van Weel, to discuss this, to discuss what they have in common, but also where they still have some talking to do. Minister, welcome to TVP World and thank you for making the time.
Thank you for having me.
So, ever since the start of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the Netherlands have been a very dependable ally of Ukraine in terms of political support, in terms of arms support. Now, recently we've seen the idea floated of using 200 billion worth of frozen Russian assets to aid Ukraine, possibly in the form of a loan that is dependent on Russia paying war reparations. What's the Dutch position on that?
So we're not in principle against using those frozen assets, and we all know that Ukraine will need a lot of money in the coming years to stay afloat, to keep their economy going, and to remain on their foot against this war of aggression against Russia. So we're open to the idea. We've seen the Commission's proposals. We think it's now important to take the right steps to look at the legal implications, the financial implications, make sure that we have enough safeguards in place. But if that is all done, then in principle we're not against.
Now the Belgians are, of course, your neighboring country. The Belgians have been one of the holdouts here. What's your comment on that? What are your talks with the Belgians on that?
Well, they run the biggest risk because most of the reserves actually sit in Belgian bank accounts. So I understand their concerns and their worries. We need to think about the stability of the financial system. We need to think about burden sharing in case something would need to be repaid. So I think if we address a lot of those issues, we can also have the conversation with Belgium on the outcome. But let's take it step by step. We're now working on the proposal and then we'll see what comes back.
Now, as mentioned earlier, the Dutch have been very active in defending the eastern border of Europe. We've seen those drones being Russian drones that did incursions into Poland being shot down by actually Dutch F-35 jets. But more recently, we've also seen drone sightings above, well, let's say Western European skies. Would you be in favor of shooting those down as well if they turn out to be Russian?
Well, we don't know yet, and that's the difficulty with these drones. How do you attribute who's actually operating them? What is the danger that goes from these drones? We've seen in Copenhagen, we've seen flight traffic being disrupted. So we need to investigate. We shouldn't panic. This is of a different caliber than the drones that actually flew into Polish airspace some weeks ago. But we need to be alert. Yes, this is something that can happen all over Europe, and attribution is key here.
Now, your colleague, the defense minister, who also appeared here on TVP World, said that when it comes to jets, Russian jets, they should only be shot down if they constitute a threat. What is a threat? When is a jet a threat?
So my message to Russia is that if you enter into NATO airspace, you run the risk of being shot down. We have rules of engagement in place, and of course they are strict and they are secret, so we cannot elaborate on it. But let's be clear, I mean, they shouldn't enter our airspace, and if they do, they take big risks, and they shouldn't do it.
Now, there's also been talk about the so-called drone wall, so some kind of European defense against drones. Now, recently, your Prime Minister, Dick Schoof, actually commented that he sees that as a NATO competency rather than an EU competency. Why the distinction? What's the difference?
So I think we need to be complementary between the two organizations. So NATO is an operational organization for self-defense. We have a clear chain of command. We have the Supreme Allied Commander Europe, who commands, for example, the F-35 jets that are stationed in Poland for air defense, and all the way down to an anti-drone wall. That constitutes a very clear tasking that is up to NATO. I think the EU is better placed for capacity building, for actually creating the investments that will allow for the capacities that we need in order to create such a drone wall. So we're not against the idea of a drone wall, but we need to be clear what is the role of the EU in this and what is the role of NATO. And the operational role of self-defense, in this case, for us, resides with NATO.
Now, a very important, one important purpose of your visit here is also migration. Now, the Dutch have historically been fairly strict when it comes to EU enlargement. Now there are discussions going about, Schengen borders, and well, the Dutch have also been a holdout when it comes to admitting Romania and Bulgaria into Schengen. Only this year, since this year, they are part of Schengen. So my question would be, why? Are the Netherlands so, let's say, offish when it comes to those kinds of issues?
So I think migration for the Netherlands is an issue, and it also will be an issue in the upcoming elections, as it was in the past elections. I think that we have the feeling that migration over the past years has not been in control. There have been too many people, the influx has been too high, too many people coming to the Netherlands. We have shortage of housing. People are in procedures for a very long time because it's too much to actually do this in a normal time. So it's been a feeling for the population that we have no grip on migration. Well, that is what, as a government, we're trying to bring back. So we're trying to introduce laws that make us less attractive or more in line with the countries around us, that make it more difficult for asylum seekers to start procedure upon procedure upon procedure upon procedure. And we're trying to make it less attractive to stay once your application has been declined, because that's another issue, that a lot of people that need to return, leave the EU, they don't leave, and they put a burden on our system. So those are our key indicators on what we should do on migration. And well, to a large extent, I think we're on the same page as Poland, that we need to stimulate regular migration that helps us also in the knowledge area or in seasonal work or otherwise. But for illegal migration or for migrants or asylum seekers that have been declined, we need to be strict and say, well, this is not your place right now.
How do you feel about Poland looking for an exception within the EU migration pact?
So we will see what the Commission will do with this wish that Poland has. I understand the exceptional situation when it comes down to the weaponization of migration by Belarus that Poland has experienced, or the large amount of refugees from Ukraine that Poland has absorbed. So there's definitely some leeway from our side to understand the situation you're in. At the same time, we see that the Netherlands, for example, suffers from a lot of secondary migration. Most of the people that apply for asylum in the Netherlands have passed through multiple countries of the EU, safe countries, on the way to our country. So we all have our different peculiarities, and the Commission will have to take that into account.
Talking about different peculiarities, when we look at the EU budget, like Poland, the Netherlands have always been a bit on the opposite end. Like Poland, main beneficiary, Netherlands, one of the main donators, so to speak, to the EU budget. What is your assessment of last summer's proposal from the European Commission on that budget, and what needs to change for the Netherlands for it to be acceptable?
So I think I can be very simple and clear about this. I like the proposal when it comes down to the content. So the modernization, the attention for migration, attention for new areas, technologies, etc. I think we can all adhere to that. More attention for security. There's only one problem from a Netherlands perspective, and that's the size of the proposed budget. So for us, that's far too high and unacceptable. But on the content, I think the Commission has made the right moves to modernize the MFF and bring it in a more modern direction.
Right. Now, today news broke about the Dutch government taking control of Nexperia, which is a chip producing firm with Chinese roots. Why the drastic move?
Well, my colleague of Economic Affairs has taken this decision because he felt that it was necessary to preserve the knowledge, the IP and the capacities that Nexperia delivers to our market as an essential producer of chips that are being used in a lot of different areas. So he felt it necessary to take that step at this moment, and I can't really elaborate any more on it, but more will follow in due course.
But what could be the effect on relationships, European relationships with China, for example?
Well, this was not aimed against China. This was aimed to preserve this essential knowledge of this company for the Netherlands, for the European market. And because of the company and movements that were being seen within the company, this decision was taken. But it was not directed at China. It was directed to preserve our own capacity.
As you mentioned earlier, the Dutch elections are coming up. So you'll probably not be minister for much longer after that. So what are some of the policy areas that you would think that are truly, let's say, your governments and could be under review by the upcoming government? What are some of the key issues that are mostly discussed within Dutch politics?
Well, that's very difficult to say. I mean, we have a very fractured landscape now in the electorate, like a lot of European countries do. So it's hard to predict what the outcome of the elections will be in a couple of weeks. We will, of course, campaign hard to make sure that our party has a significant size and will be part of the next generation, because I think that the priorities that we had, which is supporting Ukraine, taking care of our security, tackling the issue of migration, ensuring the stability of our economy, those are actually things that should be part of any government in these uncertain times, also in the future.
Finally, let's talk about Dutch-Polish bilateral relations, because that is the main reason that you're here. So you just came from the Utrecht conference, which is held now, I think, at least once a year since 1999, if I'm correct. So what does that say about the relationship between the two countries?
Well, even longer. This was the 34th edition of the Utrecht conference, a conference back then initiated to assist Poland in coming closer to EU and NATO on a bilateral basis. I would say that station has been passed a long time ago, and now we are two countries with roughly the same size of economies, strong economies, both trading nations, strong bilateral relations, economic trade relation of 38 billion a year, a similar outlook on security and defense. So on all pages, it feels like a very solid partnership that we're building together.
Wasn't that partnership a little bit under pressure at one point when your coalition partner, the PVV, came up with the idea to come up with a snitching hotline for Poles working in the Netherlands and that kind of rhetoric?
Yeah, well, that kind of rhetoric, of course, has an influence on bilateral relations, but I would say it's a very minor glitch in the excellent relations that we have now, and that's what I felt today also in my conversation with my colleague Radek Sikorski.
Minister, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
This was Michiel van-Blommestein talking to Dutch Foreign Minister David van Weel for TVP World.